Some of the best yet. Some of the best yet. They bite like that, like that, like that. Big bass, double digits.
Kick up and fire right on top.
Low fall, blast off, time to get some cast off. Doing this here for years, get my pass on. Stream mask on, putting in work. Snap back, got me focused, never settle on a shirt.
There we go. I think everything's working. Oliver's going to ask me some hard-hitting questions here.
Well, I think you've been prevalent enough in these videos on YouTube to where some of these guys might be wondering who the heck you are. So why don't you introduce yourself?
Oh, hey. I'm the guy that just dropped his phone. I'm Matt Tueten. I'm from Boston. And I fish a lot, but it's freezing cold back home. It's freezing. It's like, actually today's like 55 degrees and it's really warm. Yeah, I don't know.
So
I met this dude, what, 4 years ago in Arizona?
yeah,
I have a terrible sense of time. I have no idea.
4 years ago now, I think.
Wow, okay. So, yeah. I've been on a lot of these trips. It's always fun. It's always different. All around the country, which I love. So.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Where have you fished with me? In Texas?
Texas a bunch of times. Southern California, Northern California. A number. This is
Wisconsin. New York.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild.
It's all over. I think Texas 3 times maybe.
Okay.
Northern California 3 or 4.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So how does how does all that, like, how does Northern California, because that's where we are right now, compare to the fishing that you used to in Boston?
Where I'm from on the South Coast and Cape, it's interesting. This obviously is much bigger water than I'm ever used to, which is really interesting to see. Much deeper, like where we're at today. You're talking 100+ feet in certain sections.
Well, it's part 200 or 300.
That's crazy to me. It's like the ocean around me. So yeah, it's different in that way. Similarities in that, you know, we do, like we saw some submerged weeds yesterday. Anyone that's from the East Coast around me knows that a lot of our bodies of water are choked out with weeds.
That's a year-round phenomenon, right?
It can be, especially on spring-fed ponds and lakes that get a warmer push of water that'll keep that vegetation going all year, which for us is good because it helps oxygenate the water. When we get ice over, we can get big fish kills. So that helps. We do, on the Cape, have some crystal clear kettle ponds, but those tend to just be sandy holes in the ground.
Okay. So fishing these like deep rocky reservoirs with these long points, these submerged humps, rock walls, all this is pretty foreign to you.
Yes, very much so. From the first time I fished the West Coast, it was definitely a different animal, I have to say. You know, when you're fishing these, like you said, huge steep drop-offs, humps and shoals offshore, the exposure to using a lot of electronics is definitely something that's changed the way I fish. I was out back home before I came here, and my graph wasn't working, and it made fishing very difficult. Not just to find fish, but just to find depths and find those lines, those contours you want to find. So that's been very eye-opening. But no, it's really interesting. It's not as easy as everyone says. That's for sure. Don't think you can fly to California and catch a 15-pound fish. Maybe you can. Cut to the 15-pound fish.
Oh man, that would be nice.
You gotta just keep at it. You know, that's the thing. Anyone that's and I haven't been doing this for like 30 years, but
yeah, you're relatively new to the sport.
I will not lie. I'm not. Yeah, you know, swim baits only for the last 25 years. That's it, man. But no, the first time I threw a swim bait, as everyone calls it nowadays, a larger bait, was 4 years ago. Okay. In Arizona.
With the old Manny.
With Manny Chi. Depth's 250. Turned me onto that, and it's pretty amazing. And then this dude, just the whole sort of psyche around this type of fishing, that it doesn't always have to be a giant bait. I think it's the bait to match the situation, I suppose, and then making those adjustments within that situation to try to put everything in your advantage, because if you're sitting on one spot and drop shutting the Senko all day, it may work. Nothing wrong with that, but I'd rather up my chances. And I will say, after the last few years of kind of changing my approach, I've probably fished back home for about 20 years. So I'm 39 years old. I only really started in my early 20s with some friends of mine back home. And just that shift in mindset of the approach, where they may be at different parts of the season. If it's right, throwing a bigger bait to get a bigger bite. I've upped my percentages like crazy.
You do pretty good at home.
I feel very lucky, yes. I foster small bodies of water and keep them very close to my heart.
So those are the guys that are watching that aren't from that upper northeast. What are the thresholds here? What's considered a good fish? What's considered a trophy fish? What's considered a fish of a lifetime? And what's...
Where I'm from back home, it's a little weird. I would have to say the threshold, if you're exposed to fishing at all, not though you have to be a big bait guy or this or that, if you hit a 4 or 5 pounder, that's making your week. It may make your summer, it may make your season. When you can start honing in on it, you can start upping those percentages. So I would say, you know, if you're pushing it the right way and approaching it the right way, you step up that gauge to now a 5 to 7 pounder. It becomes a great fish. I'd love to catch 7 pounders all day, you know. For me, an 8, 8.5, 9 back home, make my month.
That's a giant.
That's a giant. There are a handful of 10s caught, but they're very few and far between for us. Oh, somebody's cutting us off.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so there's a handful. There was one, I think, 2 years ago back home. It was caught by a 10-year-old girl.
Hey.
She killed it. That was amazing.
That's
It was
awesome.
like, I think, a 10-1.
She didn't kill the fish.
No. She put that thing right back, yeah. But it was actually a kids' tournament. They were on the Cape, so it was pretty cool.
That's super rad.
So it's cool to see stuff like that going on. But yeah, you got to work hard for those fish. They do exist back home. You know, we get a lot of trout stocks. I shouldn't say a lot, a few times a year. But we get a lot of ponds and lakes that are herring fed. So there are herring runs up from the ocean, which could only be potentially 10 to 15 to 20 miles from where the lakes are. So there's a lot of bait, a lot of yellow perch, a lot of white perch. So there's potential for big fish. People, especially from Massachusetts, as I told you, that we will know the story of Walter Ballonis and the state record fish, which I believe was 15. Someone will probably write a comment down below. 15 3/4. It was over 15. It was caught decades ago, and according to lots of people, that is still the state record to be in the country, because we don't grow northern strain fish that are 15 pounds. But I've seen a skin mount of it. It's crazy. So it gives me hope that there is. I'm gonna break 10 and go right to 15. But no, it's
I like it. Aim high, dream big.
always aim high, dream big. But yeah, it's fun. You just got to stay out there, and yeah.
Well, I think
Stay on that.
one of the things that people should take away from this is get out of your comfort zone. Go try new things. Go experience all the awesome stuff that this country has to offer. I mean, the variety of fisheries that we've got to fish together on have been pretty mind-blowing.
It's diverse. It's all over the place. It's these big impounded reservoirs, natural Great Lakes. It's so, you know, seeing the big fish is great, but you know, that experience of being all over the country, getting to go to these crazy places, some remote, some in the city, it's really, really interesting. And you ain't catching anything if you're not on the water. So I think that's a really good point, though, and I understand it. If you want to have that comfort zone and you got that spot, you got that 5, 6, 7 pounder at, and you always want to go back to that spot, there's nothing wrong with that, but reach outside that comfort zone a little bit, and it can be pretty surprising what you find. So
You think that all these different perspectives that you've experienced has helped you at home?
Oh, well, 1,000%. Yeah. The different bodies of water, the different ways of fishing, the exposure to the different techniques.
Even all these little foo-foo techniques that I'm showing you with the spinning rod and a conventional reel.
I started throwing a spinning rod again. I hadn't thrown a spinning rod in about 5 years. Until probably the Great Lakes was the first trip. No, maybe Northern California last year. But still, you know, it shows me that, you know, there is, you look at all that gear and there is a purpose for each piece, and it's, you know, sort of working with the right people to understand that. The internet's amazing for research, but as we all know,
experience is always the best teacher.
Yeah, and there's a lot of info out there that is based on not actual. Yeah. That's another way. Yeah, not actual experience, or the old classic BS. So, you know, you do 10 minutes of internet research, you're not an expert.
I read it on Google.
I did. I Googled it. Really, man? I asked Jeeves.
I'm to Bing.
Bing is where it's at. I'll tell you more about Bing later, man. Let's see. Yeah,
but yeah, you guys should get out there, explore the country, watch this guy tackle omelets across the country. It's quite fascinating.
Ooh, that's gonna be my new Instagram.
You should start a YouTube channel about that.
Omelets across the nation.
Dude, this guy is taking down some freaking, what is it, the garbage omelet? Upstate New York?
I had to get the half garbage. The full garbage is a dozen eggs.
Good grief.
I'm gonna hide my shame from YouTube right now. No, eat omelets. They're good for you. Eggs are delicious and they're healthy.
All right, with that being said, we're pulling up, so time to do some work.
Low fall, blast off, time to get some cast off. Doing this here for years, get my pass on. Stream mask on, putting in work. Snap back, got me focused, never settle on the shirt. I missed one and hit one, man, that's getting some. 2, 3, 4, 5 more, come on, that's ripping up. The way the bass sticking, the way my